After my husband's funeral, my son drove me down a remote road and said, "This is where you get out. The house and the business are mine now." I stood in the dust, clutching my bag, as he drove off without looking back. I had no phone, no money, and then I realized I wasn't alone. I was free, but he had no idea what I'd been doing before his father passed away. Before we go on, please tell us where you're from and how old you are. We love getting to know our audience. Thanks for listening. My name is Nadezhda Nikolaevna Smirnova. I used to be Nadia Belova, then Nikolai's wife, then Anton and Marina's mother. But now I'm just a woman betrayed by her own children. I'm not complaining. I'm telling this story so maybe someone listening might recognize themselves or stop in time. I'm 68 years old, with hands that can no longer firmly hold a mixing bowl, but still remember how to knead bread, the kind of sourdough Anton loved as a kid. They also remember Marina's fine, wispy hair, braiding it before school while she sat on a stool, swinging her legs. I'm sharing this not for nostalgia, but so you understand. Until recently, I was an ordinary mother who believed she'd raised good, hard-working, grateful kids. Then Nikolai got sick. Pancreatic cancer, quiet and insidious. In 14 months, it took him for me, slipping right out of my hands, slow but unstoppable. We decided not to tell anyone at first, not the kids, not our friends. Just us. Not out of shame, but because we didn't want to burden them. Let them live a little longer without this, we said. They'll have time to worry, to cry, to grieve. Not now. Anton was in Moscow, wrapped up in his urgent meetings. He hadn't spent a single holiday with us in years. No Mardi Gras, no New Year's, always some business trip. And Marina? She moved every year. Yoga retreat in Krasnodar one year, a wellness detox in Sochi the next. Her ventures always seemed to fizzle out after Nikolai sent her money. "Don't tell them yet," he said one day, lying in bed, unable to get up on his own. His voice was heavy, muffled, like it was coming through cotton. "Let them live without this shadow for a bit." I nodded because I loved him, because honoring his wish was the last thing I could do for him. When the kids finally came, near the end, they didn't bring warmth. They brought cold questions. Nikolai and I lived in our old house in Mikhailovka, the village where we turned 20 abandoned acres into Smirnoff orchards. No loans, no hired help, just the two of us from scratch. An organic farm, apple orchards, deliveries to schools, charity crates for nursing homes. It wasn't just a business, it was our life's work. Anton sat at our old kitchen table, in the same spot where he used to eat soup as a kid, and said, "Mom, I just want to be practical. You know how much the treatments cost. The house is old. The orchard's on you alone now. You can't manage it. We need to look to the future." He spoke calmly, confidently, like he was at a business meeting where everything's calculated. But he wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at him and didn't see my son. I saw a man who found it convenient to think his mother was a burden. Marina showed up later, bringing perfume, suitcases, and tears, genuine ones, I thought. I saw her hug her father, sit by his bedside at night. For a moment, I wondered if I'd misjudged her, if she was really there for us. But then came the funeral, small and simple, as Nikolai wanted, on a hill overlooking our orchard. Spring was just beginning, the buds bursting with sap. I stood between my children, Anton, stoic and cold, Marina, crying into a white handkerchief I'd never seen before. When everyone left, I said, "Tomorrow, let's go through some of Dad's things. We'll need to look at them." But Anton was already pouring himself whiskey, saying, "Marina and I talked. We need to settle things quickly. We have work, you're getting older, and the orchard has problems." "Problems?" I asked. "The business is outdated," he said. "Dad told me it needs a modern approach. We've already found a buyer. They're offering good money for the land. He slid a piece of paper across the table. Not from a lawyer or notary, just a sheet with his company's logo and Nikolai's signature. Too neat, too steady for a man who hadn't been able to hold a spoon for a month. You had him sign this under morphine, I said. And that's when I knew they didn't just want my home. They'd already taken it. I just hadn't been told yet. I didn't scream or make a scene. It was enough that at the same table where Nikolai and I used to make dumplings, my children were discussing my life like it was a transaction. "Show me the will," I said quietly. Anton pushed the paper toward me. It wasn't a notary's form, not signed by our family lawyer, Viktor Alexievich, just a copy printed on plain paper with his Moscow firm's letterhead. Nikolai's signature, one I knew by heart from every Apple contract, every worker's paycheck, every note in the bread box, was too perfect, like someone had traced it with a ruler. "It's a forgery," I said. "Nikolai couldn't have signed this." His hand shook from pain even when he drank water. "He was of sound mind," Anton replied. "He understood everything, just didn't tell you to spare your feelings. He wanted us to take over, but do it right, with money, with investors, not your old-fashioned hands-on way." Marina sat silently, scrolling through her phone. "There's a buyer," she finally said. "A developer. They want to build a countryside resort. 7 million, Mom. It's a chance for all of us to start fresh." I looked at them, unable to fathom these are the same kids I read bedtime stories to, drove to after-school clubs, froze for at school recitals in the gym. "Are you saying I can't handle it?" I asked. "Mom, look at yourself," Marina said, and that sentence covered everything. "You're almost 70. The house is cold, your joints ache, the equipment's outdated. You deserve to rest in a care home. Everything's taken care of. Nurses, activities, clean rooms, meals on a schedule. I have everything here," I said. "Friends, purpose, my home." "Our home," Anton corrected. "Legally, it was Dad's, and he left it to us. We're not kicking you out. We want to provide for you. But we'll take care of the orchard." I stood up, not hunched, not frail, just straight calm, like someone whose heart had finally snapped. "I'm tired," I said. "We'll talk tomorrow." They nodded, as if agreeing, but I knew there was no tomorrow in their plans. I went upstairs to the bedroom where Nikolai and I had lived for 40 years, through fights, laughter, fevers, silences, and embraces. I lay on our old spring mattress, closed my eyes, but didn't sleep. I heard them whispering in the kitchen, Anton on the phone, Marina sending voice messages. They didn't know that in an old house, you can hear every word if you know where to place a pillow. I realized I had only the morning, one chance. At dawn, I got up, washed, dressed, and went downstairs. They were already waiting, dressed and ready. On the table was a thermos and a small suitcase, not mine. "We packed everything," Marina said, as if it were a vacation. "Essentials. We're going to show you a place. Sunny Meadows Care Home, 2 hours from here. It's beautiful." "I'm not going anywhere," I said, pouring coffee. "I'm staying home." "Mom," Anton's voice hardened, "the decision's made. The deal with the developer is next week. We need to settle this now. Be reasonable." I set my cup down slowly so it wouldn't spill. "You haven't settled anything. You've lost." "Mom, don't make this dramatic," Anton said, checking his watch. "Just get in the car." I looked at him, not his face, but deeper, and saw not my son, but a man who saw his mother as an asset, something to relocate, to settle. I nodded. "I need to use the bathroom, grab some pills, and a couple of photos." "Of course," Marina said, even smiling. "Take whatever you want. We'll send the rest later." I went upstairs, but not for pills. Behind the mirror was a hidden compartment. My passport, birth certificate, Nikolai's emergency stash. In the closet, behind his flannel shirts, a fireproof box. I came back down, slow and composed. When I stepped onto the porch, They were already waiting in a big black car with leather seats, rented clearly for serious business. I got in silently, without questions. They were pleased. We drove for a long time. Fields, villages, a river flashed by outside. Then the car turned onto a dirt road, gravel crunching under the tires. After a few minutes, it stopped. An open field, empty, silent. "Here's where you get out," Anton said, matter-of-factly, not even looking at me. I turned. Marina stared out the window, silent. "There's a gas station about 3 miles away," he said. "Call someone or get a taxi." He opened the door. "You're throwing me out like a dog," I said. "Don't be dramatic, Mom. It'll be fine. This is just simpler." I stepped out, suitcase in hand, spring grass underfoot, the wind blowing through my heart. Not with fear, but with relief. They drove off, the car vanishing around a bend, and I was left standing. Suddenly, I understood. I wasn't alone. I was free. I stood in the middle of the field, a travel bag in one hand, a heavy shoulder bag in the other. No panic, just a strange clarity. I hadn't been betrayed out of nowhere. This wasn't a sudden blow. It was a crack that had been growing for years, one I'd refused to see. I looked around. An empty field, no people, no cars, no phone. They thought I was helpless. But 10 years ago, Nikolai insisted we keep an emergency stash, phone, documents, some cash, hidden where no one would know. I walked 3 miles down that dirt road without stopping. My legs ached, the bag cut into my shoulder, blisters formed on my feet, but I kept going. With every step, I let go. I remembered how in our 30s, Nikolai and I brought saplings here in a cart, stood waist-deep in grass, cut dead branches, dug the earth with our hands. No equipment, no money, just faith that we'd build something real, that this land would grow not just apples, but something true. I realized I wasn't just walking to the gas station. I was walking forward. I reached it by evening, so exhausted I couldn't feel my legs. On the porch sat Roman Igorovich, the gas station owner, a man in his 60s with a perpetually wrinkled apron. "Nadezhda Nikolaevna?" He squinted. "Is that you?" I nodded. It had been an unusual day. He looked at my suitcase, my muddy boots, then back at my face. "Come in. I'll make tea. And you need a phone, I'm guessing." He led me inside a small, cluttered room that smelled of gasoline and pastries. He put on a kettle, handed me a landline phone. I dialed Viktor Alexievich, our family lawyer, who'd known us since we only had a plot of land. "Nadezhda Nikolaevna." His voice carried surprise and concern. "Thank God you're in touch. I've been looking for you. Why didn't you come for the will reading?" "What will reading?" I asked. Silence on the other end. Then he said, "Your son provided a document, but I had doubts. The signature looked off. I tried calling, but your phone was off." "I was unavailable," I said, barely containing my irritation. "Victor, I need your help. And your silence. Everything I say stays between us." "Absolutely," he said. "Can you meet me in an hour?" "I'll be there." I thanked Roman, who offered to drive me, but I declined. I didn't want to talk to anyone. He gave me a bottle of water, a couple of pastries, and an old warm jacket. "It gets cold at night. Take it, don't be shy." My heart ached. A man I'd spoken to maybe 3 times in my life, at the market, was showing me more warmth than my own children had in the past year. I headed to the center of Mikhailovka. At Victor's office, it was warm and quiet. His secretary gasped when she saw me. "Oh, Nadezhda Nikolaevna, we were so worried. Come in, Viktor Alexievich is waiting." He met me at the door, older now, but with the same sharp, lively eyes. "Sit down, tell me everything." I told him everything, from Nikolai's diagnosis and our silence to the drive to the field. He didn't interrupt, just gripped his pen and looked me in the eyes. When I finished, I pulled out the metal box the kids didn't know about. "Here are the documents," I said. "For 20 acres, bought long before the marriage, in my maiden name. Nikolai said, keep it as a backup. He opened the folder, studied the papers, and nodded deeply. This is your strength. This is your land. Without it, no developer can move forward with their project. He looked at me. What do you want to do? I paused, then answered calmly. I want to take back the house, the orchard, and let them learn what it means to forget who raised you. He didn't say anything, just stood, walked to the safe, and placed a folder inside. You don't just have land, Nadezhda Nikolaevna. You have the truth. And believe me, that's stronger than any signature. I nodded. Then let's begin. We don't have much time. By morning, everything was ready. Victor filed a court motion to halt the land sale, an urgent measure pending verification of the will's authenticity. The company accounts, which Anton and Marina had already started draining, were temporarily frozen. The bank, knowing Nikolai for decades, cooperated. I moved into a small room above a bakery owned by Ludmila, an old friend. She handed me a key without a word. Stay as long as you need. Bread, tea, warmth, you'll have it all. But your kids? They better not show up at my cafe. I won't serve them. I didn't laugh. I just said, don't worry. They won't come here. It smells too much like conscience. The next day, the real work began. I pulled out the notebook Nikolai and I had kept for over 30 years. Records of everything, from fertilizer shipments to the names of workers we gave bonuses to, not on paper, but from the heart. I called everyone I knew. The agronomist, the old bookkeeper, neighbors, the lawyer who helped with the land's environmental certification, the journalist from the local paper we baked apple pie with at the Harvest Festival. Everyone listened. Everyone was on my side. Nadia, said Sophia, the journalist, do you want revenge or justice? I want Nikolai's name not to be sold with the land, I said. He didn't deserve that. Then all right, she said. I know how. Just don't be afraid. By noon, everything was in motion. The land documents were in court, the developer's deal was blocked, and the newspaper had prepared an article, Local Farm Under Threat. Children want to sell, mother fights back. It wasn't a scandal, it was resistance by the book. That evening, I sat by the window in the room above the bakery, the air smelling of vanilla and yeast. Ludmila set a cup of tea and a bun in front of me. You're strong, Nadia. You know that. I'm just doing what I have to, I said. They won't understand. Not him, not her. That's not my question anymore. The phone rang around 9 p.m. A cheap new one, bought at the gas station, its number known only to Victor and the bank. An unknown caller. I answered. Mom. Anton's voice, cold, restrained, but not as confident. What have you done? I'm protecting what's mine, I said calmly. What your father and I built for 40 years. You filed a lawsuit, froze the accounts, got the newspaper involved. Do you realize what you've done to us? I didn't do anything to you, I said. I'm saving myself. You made your choice when you dumped me in that field. He went silent, then said, You want a scandal? I'll offer you one deal, I said. You and Marina officially give up all rights to the house and business. In return, I won't file a criminal complaint. You each get $5 million one time. After that, we're done. Silence, just breathing. You're serious? Dead serious. You have 24 hours. Then it goes to court. I hung up. Think they'll sign? Victor asked, looking out the window. I hope they don't, I said. Why? Because if they sign, they won't learn anything. But if they lose everything, maybe they'll get it, what they threw away. I didn't say it with anger. I had no anger left, just calm and purpose. 24 hours passed. I knew if they didn't call, they'd chosen war. If they did, it'd be too late. They called at exactly 2 p.m. An unknown number, but I knew who it was. I'm listening, I said calmly. Mom, Anton's voice wasn't businesslike anymore. Tired, broken. We won't sign on those terms. We're not okay with losing everything. Then you lose everything in court, I said, with a criminal charge. Your choice. He was silent. I pictured him sitting somewhere, in a car, a hotel room, clutching a sweaty phone, his face blank. Mom, be reasonable. We're your kids. Are you really ready to cut us off? Were you reasonable when you dumped me in that field? I asked. Then another voice came on, Marina. Mom, please. I didn't want this. Anton said it'd be simpler, that you couldn't handle it anyway. And you just went along, I said, because it was convenient. You had debts, thought a quick sale would clear them, let you start over. Her voice broke. I didn't think you'd go to court. That's your mistake, I said. You always thought I wouldn't go all the way. But you think I won't file a police report. Marina was almost crying. You wouldn't. You both forged a will, drove me to an empty field, hoped I'd disappear. That's a crime. If you don't sign, I'll turn the documents in myself and sleep easy. Another pause. Anton's voice strained. What do you want? A signed waiver of all rights to the business, the house, the land, and confirmation the will is fake. In return, I won't go to the prosecutor. No money anymore. That was yesterday's offer. Today, you walk away empty-handed. That's not fair, he said. Fair. I said quietly. Was it fair to leave your mother on the side of the road? I hung up. Victor, sitting nearby, looked at me. They'll sign, he said. They have no choice. Maybe, I said, but I don't care anymore. Not about the papers about them. Even if they sign, we have nothing left. An hour later, the local paper published the first article. Smirnoff orchards targeted by developers. Mother fights back. A photo of me in rubber boots, standing in front of the apple trees, stern, straight-backed. A short interview, clear and to the point. The land is mine. The deal is halted. The lawyer confirmed the will was forged. By the next morning, Mikhailovka was buzzing. Neighbors called, dropped by with pies, some just hugged me. No one judged, they understood. They're not from here, Ludmila said over tea that evening. They don't get that this land isn't just a plot. It's memory, roots, Nikolayu. They were my roots once, I said, but they rotted. 2 days later, Victor called. They're coming tomorrow to sign the papers. I didn't feel joy or relief, just exhaustion, like I climbed a mountain and could finally stand still, no applause needed. The next morning, they arrived. Anton, haggard, unshaven, in a wrinkled shirt. Marina, mascara smudged, hair hastily tied back. They sat across from me, with Victor and our new lawyer beside me, everything formal. Here's the waiver of all rights, Victor said. Sign. Anton grabbed the pen, signed quickly without reading. Marina signed slowly, tears dripping onto the paper. I watched without anger, like someone who'd had too much taken to feel anything anymore. Now you leave Mikhailovka, I said, and you never come back. If I see either of you here again, I'll file a report. Not as your mother, but as a citizen. They stood, didn't say goodbye, didn't thank anyone. They left. The silence was so thick you could hear the clock ticking on the wall. I looked at Victor. It's done, he said. You won. I didn't smile. No, I said. I just came home. I did come home. The house greeted me like it had been waiting all along. Same creaky shutters, worn floorboards, the smell of baked bread soaked into the wood. But the silence was different, not the heavy, oppressive kind after Nikolai's funeral, but a silence of freedom. I walked through the rooms. Some are dusty, some cluttered. Traces of Anton lingered, his laptop on the table, muddy boots by the door. I didn't touch them, just looked at them like they belonged to a stranger. Upstairs in the bedroom, the closet was torn apart, drawers pulled out, clothes in a heap. They'd been searching for documents, money, or maybe the last of my naivety. I sat on the bed, closed my eyes. Only 4 days had passed since they left me in that field, but it felt like a small lifetime. I didn't cry. My tears had dried up earlier, standing alone in that field with a stranger's suitcase and my bag. Now, there was only calm, not joy, not satisfaction, just clarity. The next morning, I packed Anton and Marina's things, not with anger, but carefully, like a person would. I put them in boxes, set them on the porch, and called a courier. Let them pick them up. They had no business here anymore. That afternoon, Victor stopped by with the court papers. Everything was official now. The business and house were mine alone. Nadezhda, he said, handing me the documents, you did everything right. Nikolai will be proud. He knew what I was capable of when he was alive. I said, I just didn't have to prove it to anyone back then. Victor paused, then pulled out a fresh copy of the newspaper. On the front page, the orchard that stood, Nadezhda Smirnova's story, the woman who didn't sell her land. Below, a photo of me in rubber boots, standing in the orchard, calm, real, no mask. I looked at it and nodded. Let be. Let them read. That evening, Ludmila came by with fresh bread, buns, and a pot of borscht. For your first day back home, she said. We sat on the porch, tea in glasses with metal holders, a blanket over my knees. How are you holding up? She asked quietly. I'm here, I said. That's real. And the kids? Nothing, I said. No calls, no apologies, no explanations. And you don't need them, Ludmila said. They left. You stayed. This is your house, your land, your life. Yes, I said, but now without illusions. I started working on the orchard again, not with my own hands, but by hiring help, finding a manager. Everything calm, steady, no rush. I did it with the sense that every apple, every leaf, every board in the house was protected. Most importantly, I stopped looking out the window, waiting for someone to show up. Everything I needed was already here within me. 2 months passed. The orchard bloomed vibrantly, as if it knew things would be different now. The new crew worked well. I barely had to step in. I just walked the rows in the mornings, a habit Nikolai and I never gave up, even in the hardest years. I touched the leaves, studied the soil. Everything was alive, growing. The house felt cleaner, freer. I took down the heavy curtains, washed the windows, rearranged the furniture in the living room. Not to start a new life, but because life itself was changing when the people who brought nothing but worry left it. One evening, I sat on the porch in Nikolai's favorite chair, a notebook on my lap. I sketched ideas, plans, opened a small shop by fall with our products, cheese, juices, jams, start an orchard tour program for school kids, and most importantly, establish a scholarship in Nikolai's name for students studying agriculture. I remembered him saying, the land shouldn't just yield a harvest. It should inspire someone to carry on. Now it would. My phone pinged. A new message from an unknown number, but I knew who it was. Mom, I'm not making excuses. I just want to talk. No strings attached. Just sit together. If you're ever ready. Marina. I looked at the screen and, oddly, felt no anger, no hurt, no tremor. Nothing. Zero. I set the phone down, didn't reply, didn't delete it. Let's sit. Let her know I read it. No word from Anton. Victor said they opened an investigation into him for forging documents. He was fired, disappeared. And as strange as it sounds, I didn't even feel sorry for him. Not because I've hardened, but because when you're betrayed, you stop wasting warmth on those who don't cherish it. One day, as I walked through the village, a boy about 16 approached me. Nadezhda Nikolaevna, he asked hesitantly. Yes, I nodded. I'm in AG school. I heard you started a scholarship. Can I apply? Of course, I said, but you'll have to study for real. The land doesn't like half-hearted effort. He nodded with such enthusiasm that I suddenly felt everything I'd done wasn't for nothing. Yes, my family fell apart, but something stronger remained. Purpose, meaning, memory. That night, I sat on the porch again, stars overhead, warm and quiet, crickets chirping in the distance. A cup of tea on my lap. I looked at the orchard, dark but alive like breathing, and I realized this was my real family. Not the one bound by blood, but the one that stays. The house, the trees, the people you can sit with in silence, unafraid of betrayal. The world no longer felt dangerous, just honest. And I was finally in my place. Autumn came early this year. Mornings brought frost on the windows, the air clear as well water. The orchard turned golden, heavy, slow. I wake early. The house is quiet, just the creak of floorboards and the smell of coffee. There's order in the house, peace in my mind, not the kind that scares, but the kind that comes after a storm. I don't wait for calls anymore, don't listen for footsteps, don't check for letters from them. Nothing will come from there, and it doesn't hurt. It's just part of the background now, like a scar that doesn't ache, but reminds you what you've been through. The Nikolai Smirnov Scholarship is up and running. The first 2 students received their awards. One of them the boy I met by the store. His mother came to me with a pie, tears in her eyes. We won't forget this. Thank you, Nadezhda Nikolaevna. I took the pie, thanked her, and smiled, not out of politeness, but for real. The shop opened too, a small building by the orchard, stocked with jars of jam, apple juice, dried herbs. Tourists stop by, school kids, sometimes just locals. You really run all this alone? They ask. Not alone, I say. I have roots. Anton's gone, like he vanished. Rumors say he's somewhere in the south, working for someone, not his field. Marina tried messaging a couple more times, then stopped. She must have realized the doors closed. Not out of spite, but clarity. One day, a journalist from the regional paper approached me for an interview. Your stories become a symbol. A woman who didn't give up her land, a mother who stood her ground. I declined. I'm not a symbol, I said. I'm just a woman who stayed on her land. The rest is just stories. He nodded respectfully and left. Tonight, I'm back on the porch, in the chair where Nikolai used to sit on long summer evenings. The tea's cooling, a notebook on my lap with new plans for spring, new apple varieties, an updated irrigation system. I'm not afraid of the future because it's mine now. My house, my orchard, my words, my silence. You might have listened to this story expecting me to break down, regret, or open the door to them like in the movies. But here's the thing. Sometimes kids leave, not because they weren't loved enough, but because they chose to be strangers. Sometimes betrayal isn't fixed, discussed, or explained. It just happens. And if you're lucky, you get up and keep going alone. I'm not angry. I'm healed. I'm no longer someone who can be bent, led away, or made to sign something behind her back. I'm a woman who didn't give up what's hers. This isn't a victory, it's a homecoming. Thank you for listening to the story until the end. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends and loved ones. It motivates us to keep working on new stories every day. Don't miss the next amazing story that's about to appear on your screen. We're very grateful to have you with us. See you soon.